Why was she the only one standing outside the briefing room? Lieutenant Sarah Chen had her arms crossed, her jaw tight. The door was closed. Voices leaked through, low, male, confident. She'd been told to wait, just wait. No explanation, no timeline, just the cold hallway of the naval base in Coronado and the weight of being excluded from a conversation about her own operation. She checked her watch, 14 minutes now. The mission brief was supposed to include her. She was the primary operator, the one who'd spent 6 months preparing for this insertion, but here she stood, outside, waiting. The door finally opened. Commander Riggs stepped out first. He didn't look at her. Behind him came 3 men she didn't recognize, civilian contractors maybe, or intelligence. They had that look, expensive watches, confident postures, eyes that assessed and dismissed in the same glance. One of them glanced her way. His expression said everything: surprise, then doubt, then something worse, amusement. "Chen," Riggs said. His voice was flat. "You're up." She walked into the briefing room. 8 faces turned toward her. Only 2 were familiar. The rest were new, transfers maybe, or brought in specifically for this. She took her seat at the table. No one moved to make space. She had to pull her chair in at an angle. The mission parameters were already on the screen. Kabul province, high-value target, extraction under hostile conditions. She'd memorized every detail weeks ago, but now they were going through it again, like she wasn't in the room, like her 6 months of prep work didn't exist. "We'll need someone who can blend," one of the contractors said. He was looking at Riggs, not at her. "Local dress, female, can navigate the compound without raising flags." "That's why she's here," Riggs said, still not looking at her. The contractor finally turned. His eyes moved over her, clinical, cold. "Has she done extractions before?" She opened her mouth to answer, but Riggs spoke first. "She's qualified." Qualified, not experienced, not proven, qualified, like a box checked on a form. "We'll need to run scenarios," another voice said. "Make sure she can handle the pressure." Sarah kept her expression neutral. She'd run scenarios, hundreds of them. She'd passed every qual, outscored half the men in her class, but saying that now would sound defensive, weak. So she stayed quiet, took notes, watched the map on the screen and calculated angles and timelines in her head. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. She spoke twice, both times to answer direct questions. Both times her answers were met with nods but no follow-up, no engagement, just acknowledgement and move on. When it ended, she was the first to stand, the first to leave. In the hallway, she heard one of the contractors laugh. She didn't turn around, didn't slow down, just kept walking until she reached the women's locker room and finally let herself breathe. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, from the effort of holding everything in. She sat on the bench and pressed her palms against her knees until the trembling stopped. Someone had already decided she wasn't enough, before she'd even opened her mouth, before she'd shown what she could do. They'd looked at her and seen a risk, a liability, something that needed to be managed rather than trusted. She'd spent years earning her trident, years proving she belonged, but in that room none of it mattered. She was still the outsider, still the question mark. Her phone buzzed, a text from Riggs. "Training yard 600, don't be late." She stared at the message. Tomorrow was supposed to be final prep, equipment check, mission walkthrough, but the tone of that text said something else. It said test, it said prove yourself, again. That night she didn't sleep much. She ran through scenarios in her head: hand-to-hand combat, weapons retention, close quarters battle, everything they might throw at her to see if she'd break. She'd done it all before, but something about tomorrow felt different, felt personal. At 5:45 she was already in the training yard, full gear, hydrated, focused. The sun was just starting to rise over the base. The air smelled like salt and diesel. She stretched, checked her sidearm, ran through her mental checklist. Riggs showed up at 5:58. Behind him were 4 men. She recognized two from yesterday's briefing. The others were new. All of them were watching her, measuring. "Chen," Riggs said, "we're going to run some drills. Make sure you're ready for the real thing." She nodded, "Yes, sir." "These gentlemen have volunteered to help." He gestured to the four men. "They'll be playing hostile contacts. Your job is to navigate the scenario and complete the objective." "Understood." "Rules of engagement?" she asked. "Realistic force. No permanent damage, but don't expect them to go easy." One of the men grinned. He was big, 6'3" maybe, heavily muscled, the kind of operator who relied on size and strength. He cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed in the empty yard. She kept her face blank, showed nothing. But inside she was calculating, weight distribution, reach advantage, probable fighting style. He'd come in aggressive, try to overwhelm her early. That's what big guys always did. "Scenario starts now," Riggs said. He stepped back. The four men spread out, surrounding her, closing the circle. She stayed centered, hands loose, breathing steady, waiting for the first move. It came from behind. She felt the shift in air pressure, heard the scuff of boots on concrete. She pivoted, deflected the grab, used his momentum to spin him past her. He stumbled, recovered, came back harder. The second man moved in from the left. She saw him in her peripheral vision, timed her counter, stepped inside his reach, used her elbow, short, sharp. He grunted, backed off. But the big one was already there, fast for his size. He grabbed her vest, yanked her forward. She let him, used the pull to get close, too close for him to throw a real punch. She hooked his ankle, shifted her weight. He went down hard. The fourth man hung back, watching, learning, smart. She reset, controlled her breathing. One down, three circling. This was the test, not just physical, mental. They wanted to see if she'd panic, if she'd freeze, if she'd make a mistake under pressure. She wouldn't give them that. The second man came again, this time with a training knife. Rubber blade, but the intent was real. He slashed. She stepped back, measured the distance. He overextended. She caught his wrist, twisted, applied pressure to the nerve cluster. The knife dropped. She kicked it away. Then the scenario shifted. The third man pulled something from his belt, a mock grenade. He called out, "Frag out." She had 3 seconds. She identified cover. A concrete barrier 15 feet away. She moved, fast, low, hit the deck behind it just as the whistle sounded. Exercise explosion. If it had been real, she'd have survived. The others, not so much. Riggs called time, reset. She stood, brushed the dirt off her pants. The men were looking at her differently now, not with doubt, with something else. Respect maybe, or at least reconsideration. But she knew this wasn't over. They'd push harder, test deeper, because passing the basic drill wasn't enough. She had to be undeniable. "Again," Riggs said. "This time objective-based. You need to reach the far wall. They need to stop you." She nodded, checked her gear. The far wall was 50 yards. Between her and it stood 4 trained operators who now knew she was capable. They wouldn't underestimate her again. The whistle blew. She moved immediately, didn't wait for them to set up. Speed was her advantage. She sprinted left, drew their attention, then cut right. Hard, the big guy lunged. She juked. He missed. She kept moving. The second man tried to cut her off. She didn't slow down. Instead, she accelerated. At the last second, she dropped, slid, baseball style under his grab, popped up on the other side, kept running. 30 yards to go. The third man was waiting. He had position, high ground on a small incline, smart. She couldn't go around him fast enough, so she went through. She hit him low, shoulder to midsection, football tackle. They both went down. She rolled, came up first, kept moving. 20 yards, the fourth man finally engaged. He'd been studying her, watching her patterns. He came in at an angle, forced her to choose, go wide and lose time, or engage and risk getting caught. She chose option 3. She grabbed a training dummy from the obstacle course, 8 pounds of dead weight. She threw it, Not at him, at his feet. He had to dodge. Half a second of distraction. She blew past him. 10 yards. The finish line was right there, but the big guy had recovered. He was fast, faster than she'd expected. He was closing. She could hear his boots pounding behind her, feel his presence. She didn't look back, didn't waste energy, just pushed. Final sprint. Lungs burning, legs screaming. She hit the wall with her palm, the impact echoed. Time. Riggs held up his stopwatch. 42 seconds. She bent over, hands on knees, catching her breath. The men were still behind her, breathing hard too. One of them laughed, not mockery, something genuine, surprise maybe. "Not bad, Chen," the big guy said. He offered his hand. She took it. His grip was firm but not crushing, a sign of respect. Riggs stepped forward. His expression was unreadable. "Acceptable," he said. That was all. Acceptable, not impressive, not outstanding, acceptable. But she saw something in his eyes. A flicker, brief. Maybe approval, maybe just acknowledgement. Either way, she'd done what she came to do. She'd proven she could handle it. "Debrief in 30, Riggs said. "Get cleaned up." She walked back to the locker room. Alone, the adrenaline was fading. In its place came exhaustion and something else. A quiet satisfaction. She'd passed their test, for now. But there was something she hadn't told them. Something they didn't know yet. The real mission. The one behind the official briefing. She'd been contacted separately, off the record, by someone higher up the chain. They'd given her different parameters, different objectives. And she had 48 hours to figure out who she could trust. What do you do when the mission brief doesn't match the whispers? Sarah stood in the shower, hot water streaming over her shoulders, washing away the dust and sweat from the training yard, but her mind was somewhere else. On a conversation from 3 days ago, a parking garage, late evening, a man in civilian clothes who somehow knew her name, knew her clearance, knew things he shouldn't. "Lieutenant Chen," he'd said, "walk with me." She should have refused, should have reported it, but something in his tone made her listen. They walked 2 levels down, away from cameras, away from ears. "The mission you've been briefed on," he said. "It's real, but it's incomplete." "Who are you?" "Someone who needs you to succeed, for reasons your commander doesn't know about." He'd handed her a phone, burner, encrypted. "When you're in country, you'll receive coordinates. They won't match your primary objective, but they're more important, national security important. I can't run 2 operations simultaneously." "You won't have to. The extraction target you've been briefed on. He's secondary, a cover. The real package is something else, something smaller, something critical." "And if I refuse?" He'd looked at her then, really looked. "Then a lot of people die, people who don't deserve it, people who trusted us." He'd walked away after that, left her standing in the parking garage with a burner phone and a choice: follow orders or follow her conscience. She'd kept the phone, hadn't used it yet, hadn't decided if she would, but it was in her locker now, wrapped in a spare shirt, waiting. The shower turned cold. She'd been in there too long. She shut off the water, dried off, got dressed. The debrief was in 15 minutes. She had to focus, had to compartmentalize. Whatever that man had told her, right now she had to be the operator Riggs expected, professional, focused, reliable. The debrief room was small, just her and Riggs and one of the contractors from yesterday, the man with the expensive watch. He introduced himself as Carter. No first name, no agency, just Carter. "Your performance this morning was adequate," he said, "but we need to discuss contingencies." "What kind of contingencies?" "The kind where things go wrong, where your primary operator goes down, where you're alone and compromised and need to make decisions without support." She leaned back in her chair. "I'm trained for that." "Training isn't experience," Carter said. "Have you ever killed anyone, Lieutenant?" The question hung in the air, sharp, pointed, designed to provoke. "That's not relevant to this operation," Riggs interjected. "It's entirely relevant," Carter shot back. We're sending her into a hostile zone. If she freezes, if she hesitates, people die. Sarah kept her voice level. I won't freeze. How do you know? Because I've had 5 years to think about it, to prepare for it. And when the moment comes, I'll do what needs to be done. Carter studied her. You sound certain. I am. Good, because there's something else you need to know. He pulled a folder from his briefcase, slid it across the table. The extraction target. His name is Tariq Mansour, former intelligence asset. He's been burned. His own people want him dead. Ours want him alive, but there's a complication. She opened the folder. Photos, intelligence reports, a grainy surveillance image of a man in his 50s, thin, weathered, eyes that had seen too much. He doesn't trust Americans, Carter continued. He's been betrayed before, by us. He'll be looking for any sign that this is a trap, any reason to bolt or fight back. How do I convince him? You don't. You give him no choice. You extract him whether he cooperates or not. Sedation if necessary, force if required. He gets on that helicopter. That's the mission. She looked at Riggs. He was quiet, too quiet. This wasn't how extractions were supposed to work. You build rapport, establish trust, make the asset want to leave. Forcing someone created risks, noise, complications. What aren't you telling me? She asked. Carter closed the folder. Mansour has information, critical information about an attack. We don't know when, we don't know where. But if we don't get him out in the next 72 hours, people die, potentially thousands. And if he doesn't have the information, if this is bad intel, then we're wrong, but we can't afford to assume that, not with what's at stake. She wanted to ask more, wanted to push, but Riggs stood. The meeting was over. You deploy in 36 hours, he said. Use the time wisely. Check your gear, run your routes, get your head straight. She left the room, walked back to her quarters. The base was busy. Afternoon drills, equipment checks, the normal rhythm of military life. But she felt disconnected from it, like she was watching from behind glass. In her locker, the burner phone was still there, still wrapped, still waiting. She pulled it out, turned it over in her hands. The man in the parking garage had said the real package was something else, something smaller, but Carter had just told her Mansour was critical, national security critical. Someone was lying, or both were telling partial truths. Either way, she was being used. The question was by whom, and for what? She unwrapped the phone, powered it on. One message was waiting, just coordinates, and a time. 24 hours after her scheduled insertion, a full day after she was supposed to extract Mansour. She memorized the numbers, deleted the message, powered down the phone. Whatever was happening, she'd have to navigate it in real time, on the ground, with incomplete information and divided loyalties. That night she packed her gear, methodical, precise. Every item had a purpose, every ounce counted. Sidearms, spare mags, med kit, communications, cash, documents. She checked and rechecked. Muscle memory and ritual, the things you do before you step into the unknown. At 200 she gave up on sleep, went to the gym, ran on the treadmill until her legs burned, lifted until her arms shook, physical exhaustion to quiet the mental noise. It helped, a little. By 600 she was back in her quarters, showered, dressed, ready. The deployment brief was at 800. She had 2 hours. She spent them reading old case files, after-action reports, stories of operations that went sideways, lessons written in blood and regret. One file stood out, an extraction in Syria 3 years ago. The operator had followed orders, retrieved the asset, but the intelligence was wrong. The asset wasn't who they thought, and bringing him out had triggered a cascade. 15 civilians dead, a whole network compromised. The operator had done everything right, and it still went wrong. She closed the file, put it away. You couldn't live in fear of what might happen. You could only prepare, make the best decisions with the information you had, except that sometimes there were no good options, only less bad ones. At 800, she walked into the final brief. The room was full now. Full mission team, pilots, support crew, intelligence. Everyone who'd be involved in getting her in and out. She found her seat, listened as they went through the timeline, the route, the backup plans, the emergency protocols. Carter was there, in the back, watching. When the brief ended, he caught her eye, gave a small nod, acknowledgement or warning she couldn't tell. Riggs pulled her aside after. "You good?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "This is a big one, Chen. High visibility. You succeed, doors open. You fail." He didn't finish, didn't need to. "I won't fail." He nodded. "I know, that's why you're going." She wanted to believe him, wanted to think this was about merit, about capability. But she'd been in the briefing room. She'd seen the doubt. This wasn't about her being the best choice. This was about her being the necessary choice. The one who could blend. The one who could access places others couldn't. She was a tool, and tools didn't question. They performed. At 1400, she boarded the transport. The flight would take 14 hours, multiple hops, multiple refuels. By the time they landed, she'd be halfway across the world, in a country that didn't want her there, hunting a man who didn't trust her, carrying secrets she didn't fully understand. She found a seat, strapped in, closed her eyes, the engines roared to life. The plane shuddered, lifted, and she felt the ground fall away beneath her. Somewhere over the Atlantic, she opened her eyes. The cabin was dark, most of the crew was sleeping. She pulled out a small notebook, started writing, not mission notes, personal thoughts, things she wanted to remember in case. She wrote about her father, a Marine, killed in action when she was 12. She wrote about the day she decided to enlist, the day she earned her trident, the faces of instructors who'd told her she wouldn't make it, and the quiet satisfaction of proving them wrong. She wrote about fear, real fear, not the kind you feel in training, the kind that comes when the bullets are real, when the mistakes are permanent. She'd felt it before, in smaller doses, but this was different. This was the fear of being alone, of carrying weight no one else could see. She closed the notebook, put it away. The plane droned on. Outside the window there was only darkness, and ahead somewhere in that darkness was a choice: follow orders or follow conscience. She didn't know which she'd choose. Not yet, but in 36 hours she'd find out. Have you ever landed in a place where even the air felt hostile? The wheels hit the tarmac hard. Sarah's stomach lurched. The transport shuddered and groaned as it slowed. Through the small window she could see dust, endless dust, the color of old bones. The sky was pale, washed out, like all the color had been baked away by the sun. Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan. She'd studied it in briefings, seen it in satellite images, but being here was different. The base sprawled across the desert like a temporary city, rows of prefab buildings, blast walls, razor wire, the infrastructure of occupation, of a war that had been going on longer than her career. The plane taxied to a stop. The rear ramp lowered, heat rolled in. It hit like a physical thing, dry, oppressive. She grabbed her gear, followed the other personnel off the plane. Her boots hit the ground, and for a moment she just stood there, breathing, adjusting. This was real now. No more training, no more hypotheticals. A Humvee was waiting, driver in full battle rattle. He looked young, too young, but his eyes were old. He'd seen things, done things, the contradiction of this place. "Lieutenant Chen," he asked. "That's me. I'm supposed to take you to briefing. Colonel wants to see you before you move out." She threw her gear in the back, climbed in. The Humvee lurched forward. They drove through the base, past rows of containers, past soldiers in various states of readiness. Some looked sharp, alert. Others looked exhausted, worn down by rotation after rotation, by heat and boredom and the constant low-level threat of violence. The briefing building was concrete, thick walls, small windows. Inside it was cooler, dim. Her eyes took a moment to adjust. A sergeant directed her down a hallway, third door on the left. Colonel Brace was waiting. He was in his 50s. Silver hair cut high and tight, face like worn leather. He didn't stand when she entered, just gestured to a chair. "Chen, good flight." "Long, sir." "They all are." He pulled up a map on his tablet. "Your insertion is tonight, 200 local. Helicopter will drop you 3 clicks from the target compound. You'll move on foot. Link up with local assets. They'll get you inside." "Local assets, how reliable?" "As reliable as anyone is here. They're being paid. They want the money. They'll do their part." She studied the map. The compound was in a valley, surrounded by high ground, bad terrain, limited escape routes. If things went wrong, extraction would be complicated. "What's the latest intel on Mansour?" she asked. Brace swiped to another screen. "He's still there. Our sources confirm he hasn't moved in 48 hours, but he's paranoid, armed. He's expecting betrayal." "From us or from his own people?" "Both. He's got a price on his head. His former employers want him dead. We want him alive. He's stuck between 2 bad options. That makes him unpredictable." "And the attack intelligence, the reason we're pulling him out." Brace leaned back. His chair creaked. "Above my pay grade, Lieutenant. I was told to get you in position, get you out. What happens in between is your call, but the clock is ticking. If he's got information about an attack, we need it. Yesterday." She nodded, understood. "One more thing." He slid a folder across the desk. "This arrived for you an hour ago. Eyes only. I haven't looked at it. Don't plan to, but someone wants you to have it before you go." She opened the folder. Inside was a single photograph. Grainy, surveillance quality. It showed Mansour, but he wasn't alone. There was a woman with him, young, mid-20s maybe, and a child, a girl, no more than 6 or 7. "Who are they?" she asked. "No idea. Like I said, I didn't look." But his tone said otherwise. He'd looked. He just wasn't supposed to talk about it. She closed the folder. Someone was sending her a message. Mansour wasn't alone. He had people with him. People who complicated the extraction. People who made this more than just a grab and go. "Wheels up at 1:30, Brace said. "Get some rest, you'll need it." She left the building, found her assigned quarters, a small container unit, bunk, locker, sink, the bare minimum. She dropped her gear, sat on the bunk, pulled out the photograph again. The woman had her arm around the child, protective. The girl was smiling, unaware, innocent. And Mansour was looking at them, not at the camera, at them, like they were the only things in the world that mattered. This changed things. You could force a man to cooperate, threaten him, sedate him if necessary. But you couldn't do that if he was protecting someone, if he had something to lose beyond his own life. She put the photo away, checked her gear. Weapons clean, loaded, ready, medkit, stocked, comms charged, everything was in order, everything except her head. At 2200 she tried to sleep. Couldn't. The air was too hot, too still. She lay on the bunk and stared at the ceiling, thought about the burner phone, the coordinates, the mission within a mission. She'd brought the phone. It was in her pack, still off, still waiting. At 100 she got up, dressed, full kit, vest, plates, sidearm, backup weapon, knife. She checked herself in the small mirror, looked at the woman staring back. 5 years ago that woman had been uncertain, afraid of failing, afraid of not measuring up. But the woman in the mirror now was different, harder, more focused. She'd earned her place even if others doubted it. The helicopter was waiting on the pad, Black Hawk, rotors already spinning. She climbed in. The crew chief gave her a thumbs up. She returned it, strapped in. The helicopter lifted, smooth, efficient, and then they were airborne, flying low over the desert, fast, using the terrain to stay hidden. Through the open door she could see the ground rushing past. Dark shapes, rocks, valleys, the occasional light from a distant village. This was someone's home. People lived here, raised families, tried to survive. And she was flying over it all, a stranger, an intruder, here to take someone whether they wanted to go or not. The flight took 30 minutes. The helicopter banked, descended. She saw the landing zone, a flat stretch of nothing. The crew chief gave her the signal, 30 seconds. She unstrapped, moved to the door. The ground was coming up fast. The helicopter flared, touched down. She jumped, hit the ground running. Behind her, the helicopter lifted immediately, disappearing into the night. The sound faded, and she was alone. Not completely alone. From the darkness, two figures approached, local assets. One was older, 50s maybe, the other younger, both armed. They stopped 10 feet away, cautious. "American?" the older one asked. "Yes." "You have payment." She pulled a small bag from her vest, tossed it. He caught it, opened it, checked the contents. American dollars, enough to make this worth their risk. "The compound is 2 kilometers, he said. "We take you to the wall. After that, you are alone." "Understood." They moved out, single file, the older man in front, her in the middle, the younger man behind. They walked in silence. The terrain was rough, rocky, hard to navigate in the dark, but her eyes adjusted. She could see well enough. 20 minutes later, they stopped. The older man pointed. Ahead, she could see the compound, high walls, a single gate, lights inside, movement. "He is in the back building," the older man said. "Second floor, but there are guards, 4 maybe more." "Armed?" "Always." She pulled out a small device. Thermal scanner, pointed it at the compound. The screen showed heat signatures, 7, no, 8, scattered throughout, 2 near the gate, 2 on the perimeter, the rest inside. "Your people said they could get me in," she said. The older man smiled, no humor in it. "We can, but not through the gate." He led her around the compound to the back wall. There was a section that was different, lower, damaged maybe. He pointed up. "You climb, there is a window, 3rd from the left. It is loose. You can open it." She looked up, 15 feet. Smooth stone, but there were small gaps, handholds. It was doable. "What about the guards?" "They change shift in 20 minutes. When they do, they all gather, smoke, talk. You have 5 minutes, maybe less." She checked her watch, started her timer. "And when I come out?" "Same way, or you don't come out. That is not our concern." Fair enough. She was paying them to get her in, not to babysit. She waited, watched. The compound was quiet, almost too quiet. Then she heard voices. The guards gathering, right on schedule. She moved fast, reached the wall, found the first handhold, started climbing. The stone was rough. It tore at her gloves, but she didn't stop. Didn't look down, just focused on the next grip. The next move. 15 feet isn't far, but when you're exposed, when you're vulnerable, it feels like a mile. She reached the window, tested it. Loose, just like they'd said. She pushed. It swung inward, dark inside, silent. She pulled herself through, landed light, crouched, listened. Nothing. She was in a hallway, narrow, poorly lit. She could smell cooking, spices, meat. Somewhere deeper in the compound, people were living, eating, existing, unaware that she was here. She moved down the hallway, found the stairs, went up, 2nd floor. The layout matched the intelligence. 3rd door on the right. She approached slowly, put her ear to the door. Voices inside, 2. 1 male, 1 female, speaking Dari. She didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Fear, argument. She tried the door, locked. She pulled a small tool from her vest, lock pick. It took 30 seconds. The lock clicked. She pushed the door open. Slow, quiet. The room was small. A bed, a table, 2 chairs, and 3 people. Mansour, the woman from the photo, and the child. They all turned, saw her. The woman screamed. Mansour moved fast, reaching for something, a weapon. "Don't," Sarah said in English, then in broken Dari. "I'm here to help." But Mansour didn't stop. He pulled a pistol. Old, Soviet-era, but functional. He aimed it at her. His hand was shaking, but his eyes were steady, determined. "Get out," he said in English, accented but clear. She kept her hands visible, non-threatening. "I'm American military. I'm here to extract you. You're in danger." "I know I'm in danger. You bring it." Not me, your own people, they're coming. Tonight, maybe tomorrow, but they're coming. And when they do, you die, your family dies. I can prevent that. He didn't lower the gun. How do I know you are not lying? You don't, but you know I'm right. You know they're coming, that's why you're still here, still hiding, still hopping for a miracle. The woman was crying, holding the child. The girl was silent, wide-eyed, too young to understand, old enough to be terrified. I can get you out, Sarah said. All of you, safe passage, new identity, protection, but you have to trust me, right now. Mansour's hand was still shaking, the gun still aimed. They sent a woman, why? To make me lower my guard. They sent me because I can blend, because I can move in places others can't, and because I won't leave you behind. He stared at her, searching, looking for the lie, the trap, but she held his gaze, steady, honest, because she meant it. She wouldn't leave them, not now, not after seeing that photograph, not after understanding what he was protecting. Slowly, very slowly, he lowered the gun. We have 5 minutes, she said. Maybe less, pack light, only what you need. What happens when the plan falls apart before you've even started? The woman moved first. She grabbed a small bag, started shoving things into it. Clothes, documents. The child watched, still silent. Sarah knelt down, made eye contact with the girl, smiled, gentle, reassuring. What's her name? Sarah asked. Amira, Mansour said. His voice was tight, controlled, but beneath it was fear, raw and barely contained. Hi, Amira. I'm Sarah. We're going on a trip, a fast one. Can you be very quiet for me? The girl looked at her mother. The woman nodded. Amira nodded too. Good girl. Sarah stood, checked her watch. 3 minutes since she'd entered the compound. Time was bleeding away. She moved to the window, looked out. The guards were still gathered, but they'd finish soon, start their rounds. She needed to move now. We go back the way I came, she said. Down the stairs, out the window, there's a wall, I'll help you over. Then we run. 3 kilometers to the extraction point. Can you make it? Yes, Mansour said, but he was looking at his wife, at Amira. They were the question marks, not him. I can carry her if needed, Sarah said, but we move fast, no stops, no hesitation, understood. They nodded. Sarah led them out of the room. Down the hallway, every step felt too loud, too exposed, but they made it to the stairs, started down. That's when she heard it, voices, shouting from outside. The guards had found something. Maybe the broken window, maybe the local assets had been seen. Either way, the alarm was spreading. Go, she whispered, now. They ran down the rest of the stairs, through the hallway to the window. Sarah went first, dropped to the ground, turned, reached up. Mansour lowered Amira. Sarah caught her, set her down, then the wife, then Mansour. Behind them, lights were coming on, doors opening. The compound was waking up, mobilizing. Run, Sarah said. They ran across the open ground, toward the wall. Sarah could hear voices behind them getting louder, closer. She reached the wall first, boosted Amira up. The girl was light, small. She scrambled over, the wife next. Slower, struggling. Sarah practically threw her over the top. Mansour went next. He made it. Barely. Sarah jumped, grabbed the top of the wall, pulled herself up. Behind her she heard the first gunshot. Reflex. Warning. The bullet hit the wall, stone chips exploded. She dropped to the other side, landed hard, rolled, came up running. They were in the open now, 3 kilometers of desert between them and safety. The local assets were gone. Smart. They'd heard the shots, taken their money and disappeared. She couldn't blame them. Stay together, she said. Don't stop for anything. They ran. The woman was carrying Amira now. The girl's face was buried in her mother's shoulder. Mansour was beside them. He'd kept the old pistol. It was in his hand. Ready. Behind them she could hear more shots. Wild, undisciplined. The guards were shooting at shadows, but that wouldn't last. They'd organize, come after them, with vehicles, with numbers. Sarah pulled out her radio, keyed the mic. Falcon, this is Sparrow. I have the package. Moving to primary extraction. Be advised we are compromised. Repeat compromised. Request immediate pickup. Static, then a voice. Copy Sparrow, extraction in 20 minutes, can you hold? 20 minutes. They'd been running for 2, she looked behind. Saw lights, headlights coming fast. Negative, we have pursuit, multiple vehicles. I need that bird now. We're 12 minutes out. You'll have to evade until then. She clicked off the radio. 12 minutes. They couldn't outrun vehicles for 12 minutes. Not with a child, not in this terrain. She looked around. The desert was mostly flat, but there were rocks, outcroppings, small valleys, not much cover, but better than nothing. This way, she said. She led them off the main path toward a cluster of rocks. They scrambled over them, found a small depression, natural cover. She pushed them down. Stay here, stay quiet. Don't move unless I tell you. Where are you going? Mansour asked. To buy you time. She moved back toward the path, found a position. Good sight lines, good cover. She pulled her rifle, checked the magazine, full. She had 3 more plus her sidearm. It would have to be enough. The vehicles were closer now. She could see them clearly. 2 trucks, modified, heavy weapons mounted. She counted heads. 8, maybe 10, too many to fight, but she didn't need to win, just slow them down. She sighted on the lead truck, aimed for the engine block, fired 3 rounds, controlled burst. The truck swerved. Smoke poured from the hood. It slowed, stopped. Men piled out, shouting, confused. The second truck kept coming. She shifted aim, fired again, tires this time. The front tire exploded. The truck lurched, lost control, flipped. Bodies scattered. But they were recovering, finding cover, returning fire. Bullets cracked past her, hit the rocks. She ducked, repositioned, fired again, short bursts, making them keep their heads down, making them think twice. Her radio crackled. Sparrow, this is Falcon. We have visual, 60 seconds. She keyed the mic. Copy, I'm marking position. She pulled a flare from her vest, popped it. Red smoke billowed up, bright against the dark desert. The helicopter came in fast. Low, the downdraft kicked up a wall of dust. She heard the crew chief on the radio. We have you, move to the bird now. She ran back to the rocks. Let's go. Mansour and his wife grabbed Amira. They ran toward the helicopter. Sarah stayed behind, covering. The guards from the compound were advancing, using the disabled trucks as cover. She fired, kept them pinned. The family reached the helicopter. Hands pulled them in. The crew chief waved at her. Come on. She fired her last magazine, dropped it, turned, ran. The helicopter was lifting, still low but moving. She pushed harder, lungs burning, legs screaming. The crew chief was leaning out, hand extended. She jumped, caught his hand. He pulled. She scrambled into the cabin. The helicopter banked hard, climbed. Bullets pinged off the hull, but they were minor, distance shots. The helicopter was fast, armored. Within seconds they were out of range. Sarah collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. The family was across from her, huddled together. Amira was crying now, the adrenaline wearing off, reality setting in. The woman was holding her, rocking her, whispering in Dari. Mansour was looking at Sarah. His expression was complicated, relief, gratitude, but also suspicion. He hadn't forgotten his question, why send a woman? We need to talk, he said, shouting over the rotors. Not now, she shouted back, when we land. He nodded, but she could see it in his eyes. He had questions, and he expected answers. The flight back to Bagram took 40 minutes. When they landed, medical was waiting. The woman and Amira were taken for evaluation. Standard protocol, make sure they were healthy, uninjured. Mansour went with them, reluctant to let them out of sight. Sarah was directed to debrief. Colonel Brace was waiting, along with Carter, the contractor from Coronado. He looked pleased. Good work, Lieutenant, Brace said. Clean extraction, minimal casualties, exactly what we needed. The family wasn't in the brief, she said. We didn't know about them until recently, but it doesn't change the mission. You got Mansour, that's what matters. Carter stepped forward. We'll need to interview him immediately. The intelligence about the attack. Time is critical. He's with his family. Give him an hour. We don't have an hour. Sarah turned, looked at Carter, really looked. Then you should have told me about them, should have briefed me properly. Instead, I walked into a room with a terrified man pointing a gun at me, and I had to earn his trust in 30 seconds. So yeah, you're going to give him an hour. Brace raised a hand. She's right, let them settle, then we talk. Carter didn't look happy, but he nodded. 1 hour. Sarah left the debrief room. She needed air, needed space. The base was bustling with morning activity, soldiers heading to breakfast, vehicles moving supplies, the routine of a war that had become normalized. She found a quiet spot, behind one of the storage containers, sat down, pulled out the burner phone. It was still in her pack, still off. She turned it on, one new message, just 2 words. Well done. She stared at the screen. Well done. Like she'd completed a task, a test, but she hadn't done what they'd asked. She'd extracted Mansour, not retrieved the mysterious package at those coordinates. She'd followed official orders, not secret ones. So why the congratulations? Unless extracting Mansour was the real mission all along, and the coordinates, the secret contact, it was all a test to see if she'd stay loyal or if she'd go rogue. She deleted the message, powered down the phone, wrapped it back up, put it away. Whoever was running this operation, they were playing games, and she was caught in the middle. An hour later, she was back in the debrief room. Mansour was there, alone. His wife and daughter were being taken care of. He looked exhausted, hollowed out, but alert. Carter started the questioning immediately. Mr. Mansour, we need information about an attack. Our intelligence suggests you have knowledge of a planned operation against American interests, potentially within the next 48 hours. Mansour looked at Carter, then at Sarah, then back to Carter. I have information, but not about what you think. What does that mean? The attack you fear, it is not coming, not in the way you expect. Explain. Mansour leaned forward. The people who want me dead, they are not planning an attack, they are covering one up, an attack that already happened 3 months ago in Kandahar. You blamed it on the Taliban, but it was not them, it was someone else, someone you trust. Carter's expression didn't change, but Sarah saw something, a flicker, brief, recognition maybe. That's a serious accusation, Brace said. It is the truth, and I have proof. Documents, names, bank transfers, everything you need to know who betrayed you, but first you protect my family. Guarantee their safety, real safety, not a promise, a guarantee. Carter stood. We'll need to verify this information before we make any deals. Then verify, but while you do, my family stays safe, under protection, non-negotiable. Sarah watched the exchange. Mansour was smart. He knew his value, knew how to leverage it, and Carter knew it too. Whatever Mansour had, it was big enough to matter. The meeting ended without resolution. Mansour was taken to secure housing, under guard, his family with him. Sarah was dismissed, told to rest, prepare for transport back to Coronado in 48 hours. But she didn't rest. She went back to her quarters, pulled out the burner phone, turned it on, sent a message to the only number in the contacts. Who are you? What do you really want? The response came within minutes. The same thing you do, the truth. She stared at the screen. The truth. Everyone claimed they wanted it, but in her experience, people only wanted the truth when it served them, when it confirmed what they already believed. She typed back, Mansour says the Kandahar attack was an inside job. Did you know? The response took longer this time, almost 10 minutes. When it came, it was just 3 words. That's why you're here. How do you choose a side when both are lying? Sarah sat in the container, staring at the phone, reading those words over and over. That's why you're here. Not to extract Mansour, not to prevent an attack, but to uncover a cover-up, to expose something that someone high up wanted buried. But who and why her? She thought back to the parking garage, the man in civilian clothes. He'd said people would die if she didn't help. He wasn't talking about a future attack. He was talking about the truth. The people who'd already died, and the people who'd die if the truth stayed hidden. She powered down the phone, hit it again. Her head was spinning, too many layers, too many secrets. She needed to think, to separate what she knew from what she suspected. What she knew, Mansour had intelligence about Kandahar. Carter wanted that intelligence. Badly. The official story was that the Taliban had attacked a supply convoy. 7 soldiers dead, 14 wounded. A tragedy, but not unusual in an active war zone. What she suspected, the attack wasn't Taliban. It was friendly fire, or worse, intentional, and someone with access, someone with authority, had covered it up, blamed the enemy, closed the investigation. If that was true, if Mansour could prove it, then people in very high places had a lot to lose. She stood, paced the small room, 4 steps one way, 4 steps back. She needed more information, but who could she trust? Brace seemed genuine, but he was military. He followed orders. If those orders came from someone involved in the cover-up, he wouldn't question them. Carter was intelligence, contractors, private sector, loyal to whoever paid them. If his employers were part of this, he'd protect them. Not her, not Mansour. That left one option: talk to Mansour directly, without Carter, without Brace, just her and him and the truth. At 2100 hours, she left her quarters. The base was quieter now, most personnel off duty, relaxing, sleeping, preparing for tomorrow. She walked casually, like she was just getting air, but her path took her toward the secure housing units, where Mansour and his family were being held. 2 guards at the entrance. She recognized one, a corporal she'd seen at morning briefings. "Evening, ma'am," he said. "Evening, I need to check on the asset. Follow-up questions for the report." "At this hour?" "Intelligence doesn't sleep, Corporal." He hesitated, but she was an officer. He was enlisted, hierarchy 1. "Yes, ma'am, 3rd unit on the right." She walked past, found the unit, knocked softly. The door opened a crack. Mansour's wife looked out, scared, defensive. "It's okay," Sarah said in English, then tried Dari. "Friend, no danger." The woman hesitated, then opened the door wider. Sarah stepped inside. The unit was small, similar to hers, but set up for a family. Amira was asleep on the bed, curled up with a stuffed animal someone had given her. Mansour was sitting at the table, a cup of tea in front of him. "Lieutenant Chen," he said, "I did not expect to see you again so soon. We need to talk privately." He glanced at his wife. She moved to the bed, sat with Amira, listening but distant. Sarah sat across from him. "The Kandahar attack, tell me what you know." "Why? So you can report it to your superiors." "No, so I can decide if I believe you." He studied her. "You are different from the others. Why?" "Because I've been lied to, used, and I'm tired of being a tool for people who don't tell me the truth." He nodded slowly. "The attack in Kandahar, the convoy that was hit, it was not Taliban, it was an American drone strike." "That's impossible. We don't strike our own convoys." "Not intentionally, but the coordinates were wrong, or the intelligence was wrong, or someone wanted it to be wrong. I do not know which, but I have the communications, the orders, the chain of command. It was your drone, your operators, your mistake. And they covered it up." "Yes, because if the truth came out, it would be more than embarrassment. It would be criminal negligence. Maybe worse. So they created a story, Taliban ambush, roadside bomb, RPGs, all lies, and they made the evidence fit the story." "How do you know this?" "Because I was there. Not at the attack, but after. I was working with your intelligence teams, translating, coordinating with locals, and I saw things that did not make sense, inconsistencies, so I started asking questions, and the more I asked, the more dangerous I became." Who gave the order to cover it up? That I do not know. The communications I have show the operational chain, but not the political one. That is above my access, but someone high, someone with the authority to silence investigations, to threaten witnesses. Sarah leaned back. And Carter, does he know? He suspects. That is why he is here, not to protect the truth, to protect the cover-up. If I talk publicly, if I provide evidence, it unravels, so he will either buy my silence or ensure it another way. By killing you. Mansour didn't answer, but his expression said enough. Sarah stood, walked to the small window, looked out at the base, at the people moving through it. Soldiers, contractors, support staff, how many of them knew, how many were complicit, how many were like her, just following orders, trusting the system. I can protect you, she said, but I need your evidence, all of it, and I need you to trust me. Why should I? Because I'm the only one who's told you the truth tonight, and because if we don't expose this, more people die. Maybe not in an attack, but in the cover-up, in the corruption, in the erosion of everything we're supposed to stand for. He was quiet for a long time, then he stood, walked to his bag, pulled out a small USB drive. This is everything, but if I give it to you, I need something in return. Name it. Get my family out, not to a safe house, not to protective custody, out to another country, new identities, real freedom, because once this comes out, we are targets, forever. I can't promise that. I don't have that authority. Then find someone who does, because this information is worthless if we are dead. She took the USB drive, held it, such a small thing, but it contained the power to destroy careers, end reputations, possibly trigger criminal investigations at the highest levels. I'll do what I can, she said, but I need time. You have 48 hours. Then I talk to Carter, and I take whatever deal he offers, even if it means my silence. She nodded, understood. He was protecting his family. She couldn't fault him for that. She left the unit, walked back across the base. The USB drive felt heavy in her pocket, like it weighed more than it should, like it was pulling her down. In her quarters, she pulled out her laptop, military issue, secure, but also monitored. She couldn't look at the files here, not without raising flags. She needed an air-gapped system, something off-network. She thought about the burner phone, the mysterious contact. They'd told her the truth, or at least part of it. Maybe they could help. She powered on the phone, sent a message. I have the evidence, but I need extraction for Mansour and his family. Can you arrange it? The response came fast. Already in motion, be ready to move in 12 hours. Move where? You'll be briefed. Trust the process. Trust the process. Easy to say, hard to do, but what choice did she have? Official channels were compromised. Carter couldn't be trusted. Brace was too entrenched in the system. This mysterious contact was her only option. She tried to sleep, failed. At 400 she gave up, got dressed, went to the gym, ran until her legs gave out, lifted until her arms shook, physical exhaustion to quiet mental chaos. At 800 she was summoned to Brace's office. She entered, found not just Brace, but Carter and two men she didn't recognize, military police. Her stomach dropped. Lieutenant Chen, Brace said. His voice was formal, cold. There's been an allegation that you've been in unauthorized contact with the asset, that you may have compromised the security of this operation. She kept her face neutral. That's not true. Then you won't mind if we search your quarters, check your devices. Standard protocol when allegations are made. She looked at Carter. He was smiling, slight, smug. He'd anticipated her move, set a trap, and she'd walked right into it. I don't consent to a search without proper cause. We have cause, one of the MPs said. A witness reported seeing you enter the secure housing unit last night, without authorization, without logging your visit. Mansour's wife, or maybe the guards, someone had talked, or been pressured to talk. I went to check on their welfare, to ensure they were being treated appropriately. At 2100 hours, without notifying command. She didn't answer. Anything she said now would sound defensive, guilty. Search her quarters, Brace ordered, and bring her devices. We'll conduct a full review. The MPs moved toward her. One reached for her sidearm. Protocol during a search. Temporary disarmament. She unholstered it, handed it over, felt naked without it. They escorted her back to her container, watched as they went through her gear. Methodical, professional, they found the laptop, the phone, the burner. They bagged it all. Evidence. You'll need to come with us, one of them said, pending the investigation. Am I under arrest? You're being detained. There's a difference. Not much of one. She was led to a holding area, a small room. Concrete, no windows, a table, 2 chairs. They left her there. Alone, hours passed. No food, no water, no updates. Just silence and the weight of her own thoughts. Had she made the right call, trusting Mansour, trusting the mysterious contact, or had she been played, used by one side against the other, a pawn in a game she didn't understand? The door finally opened. Carter walked in, alone. He sat across from her. You've made things very complicated, Lieutenant. She didn't respond. We found the phone, the encrypted communications. Very interesting. Care to explain? No. That's your right, but it makes you look guilty, like you're working with someone against us. Or I'm working to uncover the truth, which you're trying to hide. He smiled. The truth, everyone's obsessed with it, but the truth is complicated, messy. Sometimes the truth does more harm than good. 7 soldiers are dead. Their families deserve to know how, why. And they'll know the official story. Taliban attack, tragic, unavoidable. That's the truth they need, the truth that lets them move on. That's a lie. It's a kindness, because the real truth, the one you think you're protecting, it destroys faith. In the military, in leadership, in the mission. And for what? To punish a mistake, to ruin careers. The people responsible have already been dealt with, quietly, internally. The system corrected itself. By covering it up. By managing it, there's a difference. She leaned forward. You're not going to let Mansour talk, are you? That depends on you. On me. You give us the USB drive. You forget what he told you. You go back to Coronado, resume your career, and everyone wins. Mansour gets his protection, you get your freedom, and the system stays intact. And if I refuse? Then you're obstructing a federal investigation, compromising national security. The charges write themselves. You'll spend the next decade in Leavenworth. And Mansour, he'll disappear, along with his family, tragic, but necessary. She felt cold. He wasn't bluffing. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a threat. Think about it, Carter said. He stood, walked to the door, paused. You have 12 hours, then I need an answer. The door closed, locked. She was alone again. She put her head in her hands, thought about her father, the Marine who died believing in honor, in duty, in doing the right thing. What would he do? What would he tell her to do? She knew the answer. He'd tell her to fight, to stand up, even if it cost her everything. But was she ready for that? What does courage look like when you're completely alone? The holding room had no clock, no windows. Time became abstract. Sarah measured it in heartbeats, in breaths, in the slow burn of fluorescent lights overhead. She'd been sitting for what felt like hours, maybe 6, maybe 8. Her body ached, stiff from stillness. But her mind was racing. Carter's offer replayed in a loop. Give up the drive, stay silent, save her career, or refuse, lose everything, possibly her freedom, definitely her future in the military. The door opened. She expected Carter or Brace, but it was neither. It was a woman, civilian clothes, dark suit, federal agent maybe, or CIA. She carried a folder, sat down across from Sarah without introduction. Lieutenant Chen, I'm here to offer you a third option. Sarah said nothing, just waited. My name is irrelevant. My agency is irrelevant. What matters is what I can do for you, and what you can do for us. I'm listening. The woman opened the folder, pulled out a photograph. The same one Sarah had seen before, Mansour with his wife and daughter, but this one had more detail, background, context. It was taken outside a school. The girl was in a uniform, backpack, smiling. This was taken 6 months ago, in Kabul, before Mansour went into hiding. He was still working for us then, still trusted us. But something changed. He started asking questions. Questions we couldn't answer without exposing things we'd rather keep buried. Like Kandahar. The woman nodded. Like Kandahar and other operations, other mistakes. The kind that end careers, trigger investigations, undermine public trust. So you tried to silence him. We tried to manage him, there's a difference, but he ran, and now he's leverage for multiple parties, all competing for different outcomes. And which party are you? The one that wants accountability, not cover-up, but also not chaos. We need the truth, but we need it released carefully, strategically, so it does maximum good and minimum harm. That sounds like another cover-up. It's triage, the difference between amputation and bleeding out. Both are painful, one is survivable. Sarah leaned back. What do you want from me? The USB drive. We'll verify the contents, corroborate with our own intelligence. Then we'll release it, through proper channels, investigations, congressional oversight. The people responsible will be held accountable, but the institution survives. And Mansour. He gets his protection, witness protection, real protection. Him and his family, new identities, new life, the deal he wants. And me. You go back to your career. No charges, no black marks. You'll be reassigned somewhere quiet, somewhere you can rebuild, but you stay in, you keep serving. It sounded reasonable, logical, the kind of compromise that let everyone walk away. But Sarah had learned to distrust reasonable, especially when it came from people who operated in shadows. How do I know you'll follow through, that this isn't just another lie? The woman pulled out another photograph. This one was different. A man, mid-50s, 3 stars on his collar, general's uniform. Sarah recognized him. General Marcus Hayes, deputy commander, U.S. Central Command, high enough to matter, high enough to have real authority. General Hayes is leading the internal investigation. He's already seen preliminary evidence. He knows something is wrong, but he needs hard proof. The kind Mansour has. Give us the drive. We give it to Hayes, and the system corrects itself. Why should I trust Hayes? Because 20 years ago, his son died in a friendly fire incident during the first Gulf War. The military covered it up, blamed enemy fire. Hayes spent a decade trying to get the truth. He finally did, and it nearly destroyed him. He won't let that happen to another family. Sarah studied the photograph. Hayes looked like a man who'd seen too much, carried too much weight. The kind of leader who understood sacrifice wasn't always glorious. Sometimes it was just pain. If I give you the drive, Mansour walks free and clear. You have my word. Your word means nothing. I need proof, a transfer order, witness protection documents, something tangible. The woman reached into her jacket, pulled out a sealed envelope, slid it across the table. Open it. Sarah broke the seal. Inside were transfer papers, U.S. Marshals Service, Witness Security Program, names redacted, but the authorization was real, signed, dated today. This could be fake. It could be, but it's not. Check the serial numbers, call the marshal's office, verify, I'll wait. Sarah looked at the papers. The serial numbers matched the format. The signatures looked genuine, but she had no way to verify, not from this room, not without access to a phone. I can't verify from here. Then you'll have to decide, trust your gut or trust the process. Sarah folded the papers, put them back in the envelope. I need to see Mansour before I decide anything. I need to make sure he's okay with this. That's not possible. He's being moved. Right now for his safety. If you want to help him, you give me the drive, now. The pressure, the timeline, the limited options, classic manipulation. But Sarah couldn't tell if it was malicious or just pragmatic. In this world, in this moment, the line between protecting someone and controlling them was razor thin. She thought about the burner phone, the message, "Be ready to move in 12 hours." That was hours ago. Maybe the mysterious contact had already extracted Mansour. Maybe this woman was chasing ghosts, or maybe the contact was part of this, part of the plan. Too many variables, too many unknowns. "I don't have the drive," Sarah said. The woman's expression didn't change. "Where is it?" "I hid it before they searched my quarters. It's safe, but only I can retrieve it." "Then let's go get it." "Not until I see Mansour, not until I know he's safe." The woman stood. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "I'm making sure I'm not complicit in another cover-up." You realize Carter is offering him the same deal, right now as we speak. And if Mansour takes it, you lose your leverage, you lose your career, and the truth stays buried. Sarah stood too. "Then I guess we'd better hurry." The woman stared at her, calculating, then nodded. "Come with me." They left the holding room. 2 MPs were waiting outside. The woman gestured. They fell in behind. They walked through the base. The afternoon sun was brutal, blinding after hours in the dark. Sarah squinted, adjusted, kept moving. They arrived at a different building. Temporary structures, used for transit housing. The woman led her inside, down a hallway, to a door guarded by 2 more MPs. She showed them credentials. They stepped aside. Inside, Mansour was sitting with his wife and daughter. They looked tired, scared, but unharmed. Mansour looked up, saw Sarah. His expression shifted, confusion, then understanding. "Lieutenant Chen, I did not expect to see you again. I need to know something. Have you made a deal with anyone?" He glanced at his wife, then back to Sarah. "No, not yet, but they have made offers, many offers, all promising safety, all demanding silence." "And what do you want?" "I want my family to live, to be free, to not spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. If that means silence, then I will be silent. Even if it means the people responsible walk away. They will walk away regardless, with or without my testimony. Powerful men always do, but my family, they are not powerful, they are vulnerable, and I will protect them, no matter the cost." Sarah understood. She'd do the same. Anyone would, but understanding didn't make it easier. "What if I could guarantee your safety and ensure accountability, both?" "How?" She looked at the woman. "She represents people who claim they want the truth, who claim they'll protect you, witness protection, new identities, real freedom, in exchange for the evidence." Mansour turned to the woman. "Who are you?" "Someone who keeps promises, unlike the others." "Prove it." The woman pulled out the envelope, showed him the documents. Mansour read carefully. His wife looked over his shoulder. They spoke in Dari. Low, urgent, debating, weighing options. Finally, Mansour looked up. "If we do this, when do we leave?" "Tonight, as soon as we have the evidence. You'll be on a transport out of Afghanistan. By morning you'll be in Germany. By this time tomorrow, United States. After that, wherever you want. And if this is a lie, if you take the evidence and leave us here, then you'll know never to trust anyone again. But you already know that, don't you?" Mansour smiled, bitter. "Yes, I do." He looked at Sarah. "Do you trust her?" "I don't know, but I trust you. And if you think this is your best option, I'll support it." He nodded, slow, thoughtful. "Then we have a deal." Sarah felt relief and dread because now she had to deliver. She turned to the woman. "The drive is in my locker in the women's facility. I'll need access." "Let's go." They walked back across the base. The sun was setting now, long shadows, the temperature dropping. Sarah's mind was already ahead, planning. The drive was in her locker, but not just sitting there. She'd hidden it, taped under the bottom drawer, beneath the metal frame. It would take time to retrieve, time she could use to assess, to confirm this was real. They reached the women's facility. The woman stayed outside. The MPs too. Protocol. Sarah went in alone. Her locker was in the back. She opened it, pulled out the drawer, reached underneath. Her fingers found the drive, taped exactly where she'd left it. She paused, held it. This was it. The moment of choice. Give up the drive, trust the system, or keep it. Walk away. Face the consequences alone. She thought about her father, about honor, about doing the right thing even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. She peeled off the tape, took the drive, put it in her pocket, walked back outside. The woman was waiting. Did you find it? Yes. May I have it? Sarah pulled it out, held it. First, I need your name, your real name, so I know who to hold accountable if this goes wrong. The woman hesitated, then said, Rachel Mora, Office of the Inspector General, Department of Defense. A real name, a real agency. Sarah handed over the drive. Mora took it. Thank you, Lieutenant, you've done the right thing. I hope so. Mansour and his family will be moved within the hour. You'll be debriefed tomorrow, then released. No charges, no record, you have my word. Sarah nodded, watched as Mora left. The MPs followed. She was alone again, in the fading light, on a base in a war zone, having just handed over evidence that could topple careers, end legacies. She walked back to her quarters, sat on the bunk, exhausted, drained, but also, strangely, at peace. She'd made her choice, for better or worse. Now she had to live with it. Her phone buzzed, the burner. She pulled it out, one message. Congratulations, you passed. She stared at it, passed, like this was all a test, an evaluation. She typed back, who are you really? The response was immediate. Someone who needed to know if you could be trusted. Now we know. What happens now? Now you go back to Coronado, back to your life, but when we call again, and we will, you'll answer, because you've proven you're willing to do what's necessary, even when it costs you. She powered down the phone, threw it in her bag. She'd been recruited, without knowing it, by someone for something. And she just confirmed she was exactly what they were looking for. Someone who'd choose truth over comfort, justice over career. She lay back, closed her eyes. Tomorrow she'd fly home, back to California, back to normal, but nothing would be normal again. Because now she knew the system was broken, and fixing it meant working outside it, meant making choices that didn't fit on paper, that didn't follow protocol. Meant being willing to stand alone, even when everyone else was sitting down. And she'd just proven she could do exactly that. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the mission, it's coming home. The C-17 transport touched down at Coronado just after dawn. Sarah had slept during the flight, not well, but enough. The kind of sleep that came from pure exhaustion rather than peace. When the ramp lowered, California air rushed in, cool, salty, familiar. She grabbed her pack, walked down onto the tarmac. No fanfare, no welcome committee, just a sergeant with a clipboard. He checked her name, pointed her toward base processing. She'd spent 3 days traveling, Germany, then refueling in the Azores, then finally home. Each leg had given her time to think, to process, to understand what she'd actually done. She'd exposed a cover-up, saved a family, and probably ended any chance of a quiet career, even if there were no official charges, even if Mora kept her word. People would remember, people would talk. She'd be the officer who went rogue, who questioned authority, who couldn't be trusted to stay in her lane. Base processing took 2 hours, medical check, equipment return, debrief scheduling, the administrative machinery of coming home from deployment. When it was done, she was released, told to report back in 72 hours for full debrief. Until then, she was on leave. She drove to her apartment, off-base housing. A small one-bedroom she barely lived in. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it, dust on the counters, mail piled by the door, the stale air of a place unlived in. She dropped her bag, opened the windows, let the ocean breeze clear it out. Her phone buzzed. Real phone, not the burner, a text from Riggs. "Welcome home, we need to talk, my office, tomorrow, 900. She stared at it, didn't reply. She'd talk to Riggs, eventually, but not tomorrow. Tomorrow she needed to be alone, to decompress, to figure out who she was now that she'd crossed lines she couldn't uncross. She showered, long, hot, washing away weeks of dust and stress and fear when she got out. She looked at herself in the mirror, same face, same body but different eyes, eyes that had seen things, done things, eyes that couldn't unsee, couldn't undo. She got dressed. Civilian clothes, jeans, t-shirt. It felt strange, like wearing a costume. She'd been in uniform or tactical gear for so long. Normal clothes felt wrong, too soft, too vulnerable. She walked to the beach. It was early enough that it was mostly empty. A few joggers, some surfers checking the waves. She found a spot, sat in the sand, watched the ocean, the rhythm of it, endless, indifferent. The waves didn't care about cover-ups or moral choices or the weight of consequences. They just came and went, and came again. Her phone buzzed, the burner, she'd kept it. Even though the mission was over, even though she should have destroyed it, she pulled it out, one message. "How does it feel?" She typed back, "How does what feel?" "Doing the right thing, even when no one will know." "It feels lonely." "That's because it is. Most people choose comfort, you chose truth. That's rare and valuable." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing yet, but when the time comes, when we need someone who can be trusted, someone who won't fold under pressure, we'll call, and you'll decide, again. And if I say no, then we'll find someone else. But I don't think you will. I think you've already decided what kind of person you want to be." She didn't respond, just powered down the phone, put it away, stared at the ocean. The contact was right, she had decided, maybe not consciously, maybe not in one moment, but through a series of choices, each one leading to the next, each one revealing something about herself. She was someone who couldn't walk away from injustice, even when walking away was easier, safer. That night, she tried to sleep in her own bed. Couldn't, too soft, too quiet. She'd gotten used to the noise of the base, the sounds of equipment, of people moving, of purpose. Her apartment was silent, and the silence was suffocating. She got up, made coffee, sat at her kitchen table, pulled out her laptop, searched news sites, looking for anything about Kandahar, about investigations, about accountability. Nothing, not yet. Maybe it was too soon. Maybe Maura was still building the case. Or maybe, the cynical part of her whispered, maybe nothing would come of it at all. At 6:30, she went for a run, 5 miles along the beach, pushing hard, trying to outrun thoughts, trying to burn off the restless energy that came from having nothing to do, nowhere to be, no mission to focus on. When she got back, there was a car outside her apartment, black sedan, government plates. Her stomach tightened. She approached slowly. The driver's window rolled down. Rachel Maura looked out. "Morning, Lieutenant, can we talk?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Inside." They went up. Sarah offered coffee. Maura accepted. They sat at the small table. Maura looked tired, like she hadn't slept much either. "I wanted to update you, personally. Mansour and his family are safe. They're in protective custody. New identities are being processed. Within a month, they'll be settled, somewhere far from here, where they can start over. And the investigation. General Hayes has the evidence. He's assembling a team. It'll be months before anything goes public. These things move slowly, deliberately, but it's moving. The people responsible will face consequences." "Will I have to testify?" "Probably when the time comes, but it'll be classified, closed hearings. Your identity protected. You won't be the face of this, just a witness." Sarah nodded. Why are you really here? Mora smiled, slight. Because I wanted to make sure you were okay, that you didn't regret what you did. Do you think I regret it? I think you're wondering if it was worth it, if the cost was too high. Sarah looked out the window, at the ocean, at the morning sun burning off the marine layer. I don't regret it, but I don't feel good about it either. 7 families lost someone, and they still don't know the truth. They still think it was the enemy, when it was us. They'll know, eventually, when the investigation concludes, when the reports are released, they'll know, and they'll get closure. The kind Mansour almost didn't get, the kind you gave him. I didn't do it for praise. I know, that's why you were the right person. Mara stood, pulled a card from her pocket, set it on the table. If you ever need anything, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, call me. She left. Sarah sat alone again, looked at the card. Rachel Mora, Office of Inspector General, a direct line to someone who operated in the gray spaces, who understood that sometimes the right thing wasn't the legal thing, wasn't the sanctioned thing. At 900 the next day, Sarah reported to Riggs' office. He was waiting behind his desk, looking official, detached. When she entered, he gestured to a chair. She sat. Chen, I've read the reports from Bagram, from the debrief. You went off script. Yes, sir. You contacted the asset without authorization. You withheld evidence. You engaged with outside parties without informing your chain of command. Yes, sir. Under normal circumstances, that would be grounds for discipline, possibly court-martial. She said nothing, just waited. But these aren't normal circumstances. The information you provided, the evidence you secured, it's resulted in an ongoing investigation at the highest levels, an investigation that was necessary, overdue, and that wouldn't have happened without your actions. He leaned back. So here's what's going to happen. Officially, you followed protocol, you extracted the asset, secured the intelligence, and returned home. No deviations, no irregularities, clean mission, understood? Yes, sir. Unofficially, you've been flagged, not as a problem, but as someone with initiative, someone willing to make hard calls. That's valuable, but it's also dangerous, because people will try to use you, to manipulate you, to leverage that willingness for their own ends. I understand, sir. Do you? Because I've seen it before. Good officers, capable operators, they get recruited off the books for missions that don't officially exist, and then one day, they're too deep, too compromised, and there's no way back. He leaned forward. Don't let that be you, Chen. You're a good officer. You have a future. Don't throw it away for people who won't remember your name when things go wrong. I won't, sir. Dismissed. She stood, saluted, left the office, walked across the base. His warning echoed in her head. Don't get too deep. Don't get used. But wasn't it already too late? Hadn't she already proven she was willing to cross lines, to operate in gray spaces? The burner phone was in her pocket, a physical reminder of choices made, of paths taken. She could destroy it. Cut ties. Pretend the mysterious contact didn't exist. Pretend she was just a regular officer, following orders, staying in her lane. But she wouldn't, she knew that, because Riggs was right. She was willing to make hard calls, to do what was necessary, and people who operated in shadows, who dealt in secrets and half-truths, they would always need people like her. The question wasn't whether they'd call again, it was whether she'd answer. That night, she stood on her balcony, watching the sun set over the Pacific. The sky turned orange, then purple, then dark. Stars began to appear, faint at first, then brighter. The same stars that had watched over her in Afghanistan, that had watched over Mansour, over his family, over soldiers who died in a mistake that was covered up. She thought about her father, about the values he'd taught her, honor, duty, courage, but also something he'd said once, when she was young, when she'd asked him how he made hard decisions. You don't always get to choose between right and wrong, he'd told her. Sometimes you choose between two rights or two wrongs, and you do the best you can with what you know, and then you live with it. She was living with it now. The choice to trust Mara, to expose the truth, to potentially end her career for people she'd never meet, for families who'd never know her name. Was it worth it? She didn't know, maybe she never would, but she'd done it. And she'd do it again. Because some things mattered more than comfort, more than safety, more than career. Sometimes dignity didn't speak, it simply acted. And in the quiet of that evening, on a balcony overlooking an ocean that had seen countless sailors come home, countless wars end and begin again, Sarah Chen understood something fundamental. She wasn't the hero of this story. She wasn't special. She was just someone who'd been in the right place, with the right skills, and the willingness to pay the cost. In a few weeks, Mansour and his family would have new names, new lives. They'd wake up in a place where no one hunted them, where Amira could go to school without fear, where they could be normal, forgotten, safe. They'd never thank her, never know exactly what she'd risked, but that was okay, because she hadn't done it for gratitude. She'd done it because when given the choice between comfort and conscience, between career and truth, she'd chosen the harder path. And that choice, quiet and unremarked, in a world that rarely noticed the small acts of courage, that choice was enough. The stars above her didn't care, the ocean below didn't notice, but somewhere, in the machinery of justice that ground slowly but inevitably, the truth was moving, finding light, finding voice. And she'd helped it get there. That was enough.